Why, hello there. This is Zivianstarbells, and I welcome you to my gaming shop, the Zebra Cult Gaming Oasis. It's the best-rated place of the Oasis. Out of 1. In an era where RPGs solely exist in isometric, with 2 lines of participants for battles, only one chose to create a true polygonal 3D RPG with unique battle mechanics. And his name is Brian from Quest 64. Hey! Get your butt back here. I see you scrolling other videos. Stop it and let me finish. It may have a reputation, but it can still qualify as cult. And with a unique, actually 3-dimensional battle system, never seen before or since, I'd argue Quest 64 remains the cultiest of early 3D games you can find. Quest 64 casts you as a magic church apprentice, Brian, searching for the apocalypse-causing Elatail book, after your father fails to return from his own search. You slowly level up and learn your elemental spells to help you overcome the many monsters of the wilderness, as well as power-hungry evil sorcerers threatening the peaceful kingdoms. Point 1, is it a game? I have control, there's interactivity, and there's consequence for my interaction, so yes, it is game. Although limited by early 3D polygon tech, the style of large expressive eyes with exaggerated body proportions allows the characters and monsters to stand out, especially this Lady Shannon who shows up in every inn for some reason. I'm sure that's fine. They even managed to achieve memorable atmosphere with most areas. The dark woods, the hot deserts, the open plains of the highways, and all of the bustling towns. You really get a sense of scale here. This is very impressive for early 3D. Combined with the music, this is some of the best atmosphere of the N64 you can find. Despite the trees being 2-dimensional, and the major highway of the continent being green hills most of the time, even if this isn't your kind of game, I would still highly recommend checking out its OST. It really captures the feeling of being a young traveler in a big, scary world. I know what you were thinking. This all sounds like standard fantasy RPG to me. And it is. Except that we play as a mage with limited combat ability. Besides tasting my breadstick. Taste the stick! We also have to figure out our own spells and figure out how to aim them. Yes, this is a game with manual aiming. It's more fun than it sounds. Also, as you level up, you get to choose which elements to focus on, which will build up different spells. Granted, you're definitely going to want to build up water in order to have healing spell on duty, but besides that, it's fair game. Exclusively playing a squishy mage certainly makes this unique amongst the other RPGs. We have to play smarter, not harder. But even though I enjoy what it does different, there's no denying how standard it feels even at the time. Despite the British cultic flavor of the region, I know the people might consider the story and characters flat fantasy types, but if you talk to all the people, you will find hints on everything that happened before you got there, some deeper lore about the history, and even knowledge of your enemies and the way the game plays. Talk to certain characters, they'll let you know, hey, this boss has a AoE move close up, stay far away from them. They even let you know about the trail of your missing father. You're always just behind him. It helps give Brian character as a young, determined, courageous, and a helpful person, including new dialogue if you go back and report that you defeated a criminal with the king, who offers you to grab some supplies from his secret stash. I think it's the only example, and it does lack cutscenes, so you have to talk to people, which may or may not be your thing. But there are all small tragedies and twists to discover, but mostly in the last section. But more importantly than all the fancy trappings, how does it play? Well, starting from the controls, we walk and talk and collect supplies in cities because there are no shops. People just give us stuff to accomplish our task, either because we're such an adorable young man, or because we rep the church and they're claiming this is their yearly donation. But in battle, we have the 4 elements, mapped to the 4 C buttons, to try and create our spells like some sort of alchemical formula. 1 part water, 1 part earth, and voila! We have the healing spell, which can be used outside of battle because we know good game design. Also, when we roll up to the encounter, we have our movement limit and a big battlefield limit, which we have to reach to escape battle, unless you have an item or spell to do it for you. We also need to learn to manually aim our spells, which does take time, and is not beginner-friendly. Though our basic spells go straight or home, and later spells like Rolling Rock come from one side and go perpendicular to us at a specific distance. It does require some trial and error, but after a while you get used to it. And it is refreshing to have a game that doesn't hold your hand so tightly. But it does throw you in the deep end and doesn't tell you anything. However, since you always respawn at the last inn with all of the stuff you earned, it's pretty easily the best for grinding. Fight somebody, die, respawn at the inn, you still have all your experience. It doesn't punish you for that. However, one of the biggest problems with this game is the amount of time required to level up anything a significant amount. We have to walk miles to increase our agility, and therefore our movement space within battle. You need to get 100 times to level up to dispense 1 single year point. And it doesn't even change how much you get hurt. But you need to take the time to level up, because each new area will have even more difficult monsters for you to deal with. Granted, since it doesn't have adaptive difficulty, once you level up a significant amount, you can cruise through a lot of the game without issue, just fighting as you go. I will say the first area in the area between Blue Cave and the mines is probably the 2 areas where you absolutely will need to grind. I would argue that despite the difficulty curve starting a little steep because it's so consistent, it's actually got a better difficulty curve than most. There's no big spikes as long as you know what you're doing. Granted, because it throws you at the deep end, it's going to take you a while to learn what you're doing. But once you do, you quickly get used to it. It may be steep at the beginning, but it's so consistent that once you get yourself ahead of the difficulty curve, you stay ahead of it. Also, we have exploits! Find these blood jellies, skip your turn and let them wail on you multiple times. This will increase your defense significantly. Use healing in battle to level up our magic. Hit things with your stick to get more health points. Also, if you're willing to put 40 spirits into the earth element, you can get invulnerability for 2 turns. Yeah, it's not that effective. I always see people bring this up as a reason to say that the game is busted, but honestly, you need to level up your magic so much to get to this point that it's entirely justified. Plus, the only way to make sure you stay invincible is if you're recharging it every 2 turns, so take it or leave it. While the game does have some secret harder areas to get more spirit gems, and there are a lot of spells you will not see in one run, because of how few spirit gems there are in the world to pick up, and also grinding them takes forever, it is difficult to call it replayable. Though I find it comfortable and nostalgic, and you can play Brian differently on a second playthrough, the initial grind can be a turnoff. Though you could make a save file after that first steep hurdle, and before the first boss to make a second experience more viable. Or you could play the Remake-Demake on Game Boy, which adds more story, more bosses, its own version of the spell combat. But since a remake exists, I can't exactly call it timeless. Though I think it deserves a second chance, I doubt it'll get one. Unfortunately, not enough people will find interest in something that isn't an action RPG, but is more than the standard turn-based 2-group standing in lines, especially when more tactical RPGs with grid-based combat exist, and don't require fumbling to manually aim. But those unique gameplay aspects very much make it a cult classic in my opinion, It's not a popular game, but the people who love it really love it, including people who went out of their way to make the randomizer, which also allows you to make the leveling up easier. Definitely worthy of your time if you've ever wanted to try it and just cannot with the grinding. Also, Brian can dodge. I don't think you understand how important that is. Brian, in a turn-based game, can dodge attacks. That puts him on the same speed level as Sans, which means Brian for Death Battle. So I'm gonna argue that it stays on my shelf as a cult gaming classic. But what think you? Have you seen any other game like it then or now? Should we call it cult and give it the shelf space? Or kick it out of the Oasis? Let me know in the comments below, along with your suggestions for cult classic video games which belong in this Oasis. I prefer to get a physical copy, but if it's way too expensive or it's not translated, give me a pirate hat. Thanks for visiting the Zebra Cult Gaming Oasis. Remember, your stripes make you beautiful. Don't lose them.